Hey everyone, welcome to the KE Report and a company update from Newcore Gold. We're going to be recapping a lot of drill results that the company has released ever since my last conversation, March 20th. There's been 4 news releases with drill results from a handful of different deposit areas and newer type targets. I am chatting with Luke Alexander, President and CEO of Newcore Gold. Company is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol NCAU and the OTCQX under the symbol NCAUF. Now, all this work happening at the Enchi Gold Project in Ghana. Company already has a resource of a little over 1.7 million ounces. That was released in March of 2023. Luke, talk to us about this drill program. 35,000 meters, still ongoing. How far are we through this program?
Yeah, hi, Corey. So in terms of the 35,000 meter drill program, we've currently released just under 20,000 meters. Those drill results have come out over the last 6 months. We typically will get batches of 10 to 20 drill results back. We'll compile those, put them into a press release and put them out. So you'll see that generally every 4 to 6 weeks we've been putting out drill results. And we've been extremely pleased with the results that we've been putting out thus far. We do, as I mentioned, have another 15,000 meters to go, so you can expect lots of additional news flow through the end of this year.
So in terms of the results, we can go deposit to deposit in terms of what you're seeing, but big picture, what we see across this project are some big wide zones of mineralization, gold mineralization, and also some high grade areas popping up. So kind of summarize the last batch of drill results over the last couple months in terms of anything that stood out to you, or is it just more of that story of kind of consistency that you're seeing in the drill bit?
Yeah, so I guess if we look at the last few press releases that we've put out, we have put out big wide zones of mineralization. So on May 7th, for example, we put out a press release which highlighted 2.25 grams over 56 meters. So again, nice big wide intercept, 100 gram plus meters out of that from our Boin deposit, which is our second largest deposit on the project. And then last week we put out some additional drill results which highlighted some nice high grade on our project, again from our Boin deposit. So 24 meters of 4.4 grams, but within that we've had an intercept of 9 grams over 10 meters. Importantly, these are still relatively shallow holes, kind of 125 meters below surface, so those will get captured within a pit. And then if we look at some additional results from last week, we hit 1.58 grams over 52 meters. So again, nice big wide mineralized zone. And within a lot of the results that we've been putting out recently, we've also been pushing the holes beyond the pits that constrain our current resource today. And we expect that we're going to have a positive impact from a resource growth perspective as part of this infill drilling that we've been doing at our Enchi project. And then it's important to highlight, and we can talk a bit about it, but the second half of our drill program, so this additional roughly 15,000 meters that we're focused on, is really focused on pure resource expansion. So we've completed the infill drilling at this stage, and we're excited to now be focused on, true resource expansion type drilling. So going back to some previously drill tested areas, doing nice step outs along trend from our existing deposits, as well as we've talked on this program a number of times, we've got a high grade opportunity at depth that we're excited to start drilling in the second half of this year as well. So lots of activity on the project, and the great thing is that everything we're going to be talking about today, we're fully funded for and have cash for at least the next couple of years.
So in terms of this, I guess, first half of the program, the just under 20,000 meters, as you said, a lot of it sounds like it's more resource conversion type drilling leading up to an updated resource and that PFS that you have planned. What have you seen in terms of this resource conversion? Anything that surprised you? Has it gone according to plan? This sort of drilling, it can be sometimes boring, I guess, for the market, but it's very important to continue to upgrade the ounces that you already have. So just give us an overview of just what you're converting right now.
So we're well ahead of where we expected to be from a conversion perspective. I mean, a big focus of the drilling has been at Boin and CEUM, which are our two largest deposits on the project. The other thing that we've been very pleased with is the fact that by pushing a number of these holes beyond the pits that currently constrain our resource today and ending in mineralization, we think we've been able to add ounces as well. So really killing two birds with one stone. As you highlight, yes, converting ounces, which is critical for the PFS, but then by pushing these holes, call it 25 to 75 meters beyond the existing pits and continuing to intercept mineralization, what that will ultimately do is widen and potentially deepen the pits, adding ounces to the overall resource. So that's probably the thing that's been most, I guess not surprising, but most pleasing with the drilling that we've been doing is a number of these intercepts that, the deepest section and deepest hole, but also the fact that, with a number of the shallower holes, we are continuing to find mineralization beyond the existing pits, which we think will add to ounces as well. So that's probably been the biggest thing that we've been happy with.
So that drilling outside of the existing pits, how has the grade, how have the widths compared to what you already know, what you were seeing in past drilling that's already included in the pits?
Well, because these pits were used to produce the last resource, obviously now that we know where the pit shells are for that resource, we are able to then push them beyond those existing resource areas today. So, we've got a number of examples across the project where, we've ended in 20 meters of 2 grams, we've ended in 1.25 of 20 meters. So those types of intercepts will obviously have a real positive impact on the overall resource going forward. And then we're obviously, very pleased with the fact that we continue to hit very wide zones of mineralization. We talked about 2.25 grams over 56 meters, 1.58 over 52. Those types of intercepts and the fact that they're the deepest holes within the sections that we're drilling, again, will deepen and widen the pits on our project, which we think will ultimately add ounces. But being well ahead of where we wanted to be from a resource conversion perspective, that will bode very well for the PFS that we're looking to commission in the second half of this year and publish in the first half of next year.
So are you cutting off the drilling for this updated resource now that you're switching focus more to the exploration, maybe new discovery side of things? Are you cutting off the drilling so that you can get this updated resource out in the near term?
Yeah, so we're not going to cut off the drilling per se. Our plan is to just continue to drill for the foreseeable future. And my expectation is as we get additional money coming in from warrant proceeds, that we will continue to expand the drill program well beyond 35,000 meters and just continue to drill right into 2026 and 2027. But yes, at some stage, you need to put a pin in on deciding when to wrap a resource around or an updated resource around the drilling that's been completed so that we can then take that resource and use it to produce the PFS. So at this stage, we've pretty much completed the drilling that we had planned and we feel well ahead of where we wanted to be. So our view is, getting the resource ready to include within the PFS is something that we'll start to work on now.
Okay, let's talk about that resource expansion, more of this exploration that you're pivoting to with this year's program. You mentioned some of it's going deeper, others just is simply testing out different areas. So, what can you tell us about how many different areas you're testing here, what the strategy is? Give us some more insights on all this.
So from a strategy perspective, I mean, all of our deposits do remain open along strikes. So continuing to systematically step out and chase near surface ounces is something that we will look to do. That has a couple of positive impacts. One is it has the potential to grow the overall size of the resource. But then secondly, obviously, the PEA that we produced in 2024 had a 9-year mine life. And if we continue to grow the near surface ounces, then obviously our view is that we'll be able to expand that well beyond the 9 years and or potentially grow the number of ounces being produced. So continuing to systematically grow our 4 resource areas and our 4 deposits is something we'll look at doing. We've then got, another 5 previously drill tested areas, which we will look to go back and, do additional drilling at. You'll see some results that we put out last month, which were focused on an area called Kogina Hill. That's an area where we had done some previous drilling, made some nice intercepts, but didn't have enough drill density yet to ultimately wrap a resource around those drill intercepts. So going back, doing additional drilling, finding additional ounces, then will allow us to potentially wrap resources around those areas. So that's another focus for us. And then lastly, we've got a diamond rig on site at the moment, which is doing some hydrological and geotech drilling, which is one of the things we need to get completed for the PFS. But once we've completed that drilling, then we'll be able to use that diamond drill to ultimately drill some deeper holes on our project as well, with the goal of continuing to grow the overall size of the high-grade resource that we've got at our Enchi project. If you look at the number of, call it, deeper holes, so 250 meters or deeper that we've drilled to date, it's only about 45 holes. So obviously that's limited drilling into these high-grade feeder zones in our project. So that's something that we're excited to do as well, is chase some of these structures with some of this additional drilling that we're planning.
Okay. Now, in terms of funding, you said you're funded for this. You're even funded through this drill program. What does that mean? How much cash do you have? What kind of runway does it give you next year?
Yeah, so the end of February, we had $17 million in the bank. It's important to highlight that we've got an additional roughly $3.5 million coming in from warrant proceeds, which are well in the money. Those will come in by September, and then an additional $10.5 million, which we expect to come in by February of next year. So if all of that comes in, we would be sitting around $30 million. So that would then allow us to expand the drill program well beyond the 35,000 meters. But even with the cash we've got today, we're fully funded for everything we've talked about, the 35,000 meters, the PFS, or the PFS work that we're going to get done. And then we've got at least enough cash for all of 2026 and 2027. So we're in a very good position from that perspective, and I think that's a real benefit for the company.
So, Luke, kind of a side note here. I know that you've been out there doing a lot of marketing, getting this story in front of people. What have you been hearing on the street? This market's doing well, the stock has been doing well, and you have a lot of drilling underway, but then you also have these other catalysts of an updated resource, economics, a pre-feasibility study coming out. What's the market looking for these days when you're an advanced company like Newcore?
So in terms of our major shareholders, so we're 55% institutionally owned today. These are deep-pocketed, long-term investors who, look at our project and see that we've got a very buildable project that has true district scale exploration layered on top. So our investors want to see us push this towards a construction decision and ultimately get it into production as quickly as possible. So obviously with that, we are focused on getting this PFS done as quickly as we can, and then we would look to take that to an FS and ultimately to a construction decision. So that's a big focus for us. And if you look at the economics of the project, it's very achievable for us. Beyond that, as I've just highlighted, we have true district scale exploration upside. As I've mentioned, all of our deposits remain open along strike. We've got multiple other, targets that we've identified on the project that, we're working up in terms of what the next priorities are from a drilling perspective. And then, as I highlighted, we've only drilled about 45, call it deeper holes down to 250 meters or deeper on our project. So our investors also want us to be obviously focused on that, exploration upside as well. And I would personally argue that given the fundamental underpinning of value that you've got for Enchi within the PEA that we put out in 2024, that you get all of that exploration for free. And that's something that our investors are very excited about. And we hope to unlock some of that value with this additional drilling that we're doing in the second half of 2025.
Okay. Luke, thank you very much for this update. Again, Luke Alexander, President and CEO of Newcore Gold. A lot of news still to come from the company. So, everyone, if you have any follow up questions, you want Luke to address any points in upcoming interviews, please just email them to me and I will bring those up in future calls. Luke, thank you very much for this update.
Yeah, great to catch up, Corey.